Hey folks, Cam Rogers here, taking a look at the Titans preseason profile. It was a really good offseason, draft and free agency included. Dion Lewis joins Derrick Henry in that backfield. Malcolm Butler really helps things out in that secondary that struggled a year ago. Then Bennie Logan, some really good depth on that defensive line. And then that first round selection, Rashaan Evans. I am so excited to see what he can do on the defensive side in the NFL for many, many years to come. He'll be a big-time piece for that Titans defense. In terms of key losses, Avery Williamson moves on. He's now a member of the New York Jets, and Eric Decker is still unsigned. So really, the only key loss is Williamson, but you got Rashaan Evans waiting in the wing there. So off-season grade of A for me with the Tennessee Titans. They are in position to make some big-time noise in the AFC and the NFL in general, and I think they have a very real shot at capturing the AFC South and at least hosting one playoff game next season. But before we get there, let's take a look at the preseason schedule here. And the Titans kick things off against the Green Bay Packers, followed by Tampa Bay, then at Pittsburgh, the big ketchup bottle in Week 3, and then the Minnesota Vikings in Week 4. So let's zone in on the dress rehearsal game against Pittsburgh. And here is one major question that I'm thinking about. How are the carries going to be split between Dion Lewis and Derrick Henry? Because the carry totals for both of those running backs could be some foreshadowing, if you will, for the regular season. Now, all indications are Derrick Henry will have the opportunity to be the featured back throughout training camp, and if he wins it very well, very convincingly over Dion Lewis, then Henry could be that bell cow for 2018. Meanwhile, it's a good test for the Titans' stout front seven, Derek Morgan, Brian Orakpo, Jarrell Casey, the list goes on, because the Steelers have a pretty darn good interior headlined by David DeCastro at the guard position. So those are the storylines with that Week 3 game against Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, storylines for training camp. Is it time to unleash Derrick Henry? DeMarco Murray is no more. In fact, he's no more in the NFL in general. He has retired. So you saw some flashes from Derrick Henry at the end of last season. And if you're new offensive coordinator Matt LaFleur, you're hammering Henry as much as you can in training camp to see if this kid can take a big workload. If the Titans contend for the division, Henry is going to be a big reason why, but at the same time, Dion Lewis has to be used properly too, because he has a really good resume in his own right. So the Titans have what you call a really good problem in terms of the talent there in the backfield. Meanwhile, Mike Vrabel, is he ready to be a head coach in the National Football League? He's surrounded by a really good staff. Mentioned LaFleur. He's a good offensive mind. You got Dean Pease now. GM John Robinson, who has some New England Patriot ties, much like Mr. Vrabel there. So I actually think there are many more coaches out there than what you realize that probably are worse than Mike Vrabel. And Vrabel has no head coaching experience. Looking at you, Marvin Lewis, Dirk Cutter, maybe even Jason Garrett. All right, how about the secondary? Is it going to improve? I think it will. You see Butler at one position at corner, then Adoree Jackson, who had a really good rookie campaign. Jonathan Cyprien is more of a box safety. He struggled with injuries last year. His Pro Football Focus grade was not very good. But Kevin Byard is as good as they come at the safety position. Had a really good season back in 2017. Really underrated player. So the secondary was 25th against the pass last season. So obviously the Titans made some additions there to that back end. I think they will be better come 2018. So those are the big time training camp storylines there surrounding the Titans. Meanwhile, the regular season schedule. Let's take a look at the first half here on the board. Miami, Houston, Jacksonville, and then Philadelphia. So two key AFC South games there. And then you got the champs in Week 4, followed by the Bills, the Ravens, the Chargers, and then the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football. Ravens, Chargers will be difficult. Then the second half of the season, New England, Indianapolis, at Houston against the Jets. And then you take on the Jaguars, and then really a cupcake finish. The Titans could really have some solid momentum going into the postseason if they get there against the Giants, the Redskins and the Indianapolis Colts there in Week 17. In terms of Super Bowl 53 odds, here's where they stand. Plus 4,500. I actually have the Tennessee Titans winning the AFC South. They beat out the Jags. They beat out the Texans. I love the offensive line. I think Derrick Henry has a really good season. I love the front seven. I mentioned some of the players, Rashaan Evans and Arakpo and Derek Morgan. They're getting up there in age, but they're still pretty productive. I think the secondary will be better. So in terms of balance on a roster, the Titans have that. And that's what I'm looking for when I'm making predictions before the NFL season. Balance and depth. And I think the Tennessee Titans are going to hammer the rock. Mariota off the play action. Corey Davis down the football field. They'll be effective this season. So where will they finish in the AFC South? I want to hear from you guys. Be sure to hit me up in the comments section. And be sure to follow Chat Sports as you see at the bottom of your screen on Twitter @ChatSports.